All right, my name is Abby Boyk. I go to UW Med School, and I'm here today with Julie. Julie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Julie DePoctor. I'm the administrative assistant for Worko and also a recovery coach.
Thank you. We are doing an interview for Voices for Recovery, and we'll start. Julie, could you just tell me about yourself, like where you're from, what you like to do?
Sure. I grew up, actually, I was born here in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Elementary school, we moved to Bradenton, Florida, where I grew up. And then later on in high school years, we moved back here to Sheboygan. I enjoy art, photography, nature, especially bodies of water. I'm very connected to the Gulf, very connected to the, Lake Michigan. I'm obsessed with sea turtles and I love kayaking. And that's about it.
That's awesome. What made you want to do this interview today?
I believe that my journey in life has given me a purpose to help others, to make it okay to talk about our struggles with addiction. Basically, to help others.
Thank you so much for being willing to do this. It means a lot to me and to everyone else in the community that maybe hasn't gotten here.
And I should say, this today is my 2-year sobriety anniversary. And so I'm also doing it for me because I have not spoken fully yet.
We are so glad that you've made it this far. And I'm so excited that I get to be here with you as you get to tell your story and share some wisdom that you've picked up along the way.
Me too.
What was life like for you before you started on this recovery journey?
My life has been sad, lost, chaotic, completely unmanageable. I actually started using alcohol and drugs at the age of 10. I had childhood trauma that no 10-year-old should have to try to process. And my family, I believe I was born with a different love language, and my family was not one to be open with feelings. So it was everybody kind of just hid everything. And I remember at a very young age, I was 10, I remember looking at my family and putting the connection of they go to the medicine cabinet to feel better, and I just want to feel better. So I started randomly going to the medicine cabinet and just picking whatever I could find to feel better. Alcohol was also always available in my home. And well, when people drank, they were happy and everything was funny. And I wanted to feel that way too. So that was a good way. I also started smoking at that age. So I had family members that also smoked. So every bad vice that I thought would work was at my hands. And so that's what I turned to. It was medications, it was alcohol and cigarettes. And that was when I was 10. And so I kept up with those behaviors, and really, I think at that young of an age, you don't even develop coping mechanisms. And so that was the one and only coping mechanism that I knew, to make me feel different and to numb the pain. And so I did that continuously, until I was 42 years old. So I have 32 years of not being true to myself and not dealing with life and hiding, and numbing. And so these past 2 years have really been eye-opening and difficult in a very beautiful way.
That's a long time to be in that space. And I'm sure it can take some time to move out of it. What was the first step that you remember towards sobriety?
You know, it certainly wasn't like a light bulb moment that one day I was just like, oh, I'm done. It was several things throughout life. Watching like peers my age conquering these, quote unquote normal milestones, like, graduating college and buying a house and having a family and just the whole adulting and responsible life. So I had known for a while that I had a problem, and that just kind of sat in my thoughts for a while. I've always had a dream to own my own house. I'm an artist and I love antiques and making old new and interior decorating and all of that good stuff. And I had a savings of $16,000 to put down on a home. And after my nephew died of a lethal dose of fentanyl, I didn't cope very well. And so I spent $16,000 drinking that away, partying my sorrows away. And when that money was gone and I had realized what I had done, I think that was pretty much my rock bottom, where I said, okay, now it's time to change. That was a lot of money to just I have 2 sons. I have responsibilities that I could have taken care of. And I just didn't want to feel what I was feeling. And selfishly, you just don't think about other people in your life. You don't think about where that money could go or even how to be responsible. You just react. And the only way I know how to react in any situation that gives me pain is to numb it. And so that's what I did. A lot of bad choices, a lot of bad toxic people in my life. And I just got to the point where I had nothing left. And I wanted a different life.
I'm so sorry about your nephew.
Thank you.
What has your recovery journey looked like since then, since you got to that point?
Like I said, it was not like a light bulb moment. There has been different events that led me to make this decision. And I wish it was just like one light bulb moment, because then life would have been a lot easier, but it's not. So it's been a roller coaster. I have had like these extreme highs of, oh, I've got this, I'm doing it, life is beautiful. And then you're bawling and you're crying because your world is turned upside down. You don't have the same friends, you don't go to the same places. You actually have to feel your feelings, which is something I've never done before. If it's somebody's birthday, you drink. If it's somebody's funeral, you drink. If somebody's getting married, you drink. If somebody's getting divorced, you drink. Like, so having to, I just assumed that if I decided to get sober and got into a program, that it would be, easy. I thought, it's just kind of going to be a little bit hard in the beginning, but actually it's been a roller coaster. And I don't regret one moment of it, but it wasn't easy. And there was a lot of wonderful and beautiful moments. But I did not expect to cry as much as I did, or to have like adult temper tantrums the way that I did. I mean, I was a 42-year-old woman, sobbing, crying, punching pillows. I was angry. I was feeling everything that I had numbed for 32 years. That's a lot of pent up stuff. So it's work. It's work. I think I assumed that just stopping the drinking was just going to solve everything. And don't get me wrong, that's huge. Absolutely. However, I couldn't do it alone. I remember I tried doing it myself, and I lasted like 2 weeks, and I couldn't even think enough to put like one foot in front of the other. And then I went to a meeting. And without that help, I don't think I would have had the recovery story that I have. So it's been amazing. It's been beautiful and tough. It's really tough feeling everything and not having that coping mechanism to numb it, and to be okay to cry. I remember I would go to meetings and I kept saying, like wiping my tears. I'm like, what is wrong with me? I feel like a 13-year-old girl. It's like hormonal. Like, I'm 40 some years old. What's going on? And it's 32 years of emotions and sadness and regrets and embarrassment and disappointment, and that is a lot to feel.
Do you find that other people in your recovery group or at meetings can identify with that?
Yes. It's intimidating going into a place and saying, I have a problem. The first time I think is intimidating for everybody. But once you're there, you realize we have a saying like, everybody feels like they're like the black sheep of the family. And then when you find your recovery path that clicks, that works with you, we say we found our herd. Like, I might not have fit in many other places, but one place I do know I fit in is my home group. That's and people in recovery just in general that they get it. it's a silent connection. You just, it's a brother and sisterhood of like people who know that they, that there's a problem and that they need help and they need support. And I couldn't have done it without them. I think the scariest thing was getting involved with a whole new environment, all new people, and you're not really sure how that's going to go. And it's terrifying because, my bar was like Cheers. I walked in and everybody was like, "Hey, Julie, how's it going?" And life of the party, and so important to be there. But that wasn't real. That was alcohol talking. And that was alcohol's party. And I didn't relate to any of those people on any other level other than getting drunk. And so going to a group of people who have your same challenges and sadness and embarrassment and desire to want better for your life, but confused as to how to get it. I've never felt more at home than I did when I found, my path to recovery. The people that just unconditionally loved me. No matter whether I walked in all happy and positive, and then the next day I came in and I was like, screw this, I want a beer. And they said, yeah, we get it. We get it. Yeah, I definitely couldn't have done it on my own. I know I couldn't have because I tried. And that was the longest 2 weeks of my life, was pacing and trying not to go to the bar and doing it by myself and not having anyone to talk to. That was definitely the loneliest time.
I'm so glad you found a group or many groups of people who've been able to come alongside. Is there anyone or any groups that really stand out in your mind as people who you're never going to forget?
Absolutely. I actually started so a family member had informed me that my grandparents were significant in bringing AA and Al-Anon to Sheboygan. And my grandfather was like, he was my hero and he was my protector. And I just had this amazing, strong bond with him. And when I was younger, I remember him talking about meetings, but I really thought it was like, like a coffee group for old people. I didn't think that it was like, I don't know, I was a kid. And so again, my family doesn't talk about any feelings. They don't talk about anything significant. That's just how they were. And so I didn't learn about my grandparents' legacy until I was 38. And when I was 38, I was in a toxic relationship and I needed to change something. And so when this family member told me about this, I had gone to one of the clubs here, and sure enough, I found my grandfather's lifetime membership plaque. And then I found my grandmother's first chairwoman of Al-Anon in Sheboygan plaque. And so as I was reading those plaques, people started coming into the room and they said, "Oh, are you here for the Al-Anon meeting?" And I kind of went, "Oh, I guess I am." So um, I had tried several different meetings, and then I found my home group at the Right Way Club here in Sheboygan, and that group, which happened to be ladies, and every now and then we would have um, a male pop in or whatever. It was always welcoming, open to anybody, but it normally was this group of ladies that met every Wednesday morning, and um, wow, they just accepted me with open arms and put me in my place when I needed to be and lifted me up always. And I spent 5 years going to that group before I realized, you know, being hungover every morning is probably not a healthy thing. And maybe I needed to start changing some things myself instead of focusing on what other people needed to do. And they supported me 100% when I decided to kind of jump the fence and go from Al-Anon to AA. And I stayed at the Right Way Club, and that whole recovery family, I could not have done any of this without them. I mean, I suppose I could have, and it would have been really, really rough, and I probably would have had several setbacks, but they made it doable. They were my examples of that it could be done. And they were supportive, and no criticism, no judgments. Just an amazing group of people. And along that, I have my grandparents who are no longer earthside, but I know that they're with me. And it's amazing because some of the old timers that still go to that club, they talk about my grandfather. And I love that. I love hearing those old stories. And he was kind of like he was like a hard, he was a hard ass. It was like no nonsense whatsoever. Like, we're here, we're going to do this, yeah, so definitely, my Right Way Club, my grandparents, I know that they've been with me. I know that my nephew Taylor has been with me. And a group of friends that I had gone to a meeting, and we were sitting at the end of the rectangle of tables, and it was Jason, Josh, myself, Naomi, and Randy. And we were talking and we were laughing and just having a really good time before the meeting started. And I'm the only one left of that memory. Every one of them died. And so I have the Right Way Club family that's here, Earthside. And every day I have my army, my fighters, my hope dealers that are with me in spirit that I think about. In fact, I'm doing this in honor of Naomi because at that particular meeting, I had talked about the need to be open about our root causes of why we choose to pick up these substances and to self-medicate. and why we use that as coping skills. And because there's more to it than just wanting to party one day and feeling a little adventurous and risky. There's a lot more behind it when a 10-year-old decides that she's got to do something to live because she can't deal with what's going on. And after that, Naomi came up to me and she just held my hand so tight and she said, I need you to tell your story, because tonight you made me want to tell mine. And so it's pretty hard to be open. Not a lot of people talk about childhood trauma that would make them look for those coping mechanisms. But, you know, Naomi's not here anymore to tell her story. And so I have to tell mine for her.
Thank you so much for doing this. It's been a long time coming, and it sounds like you have a lot of people on your team, which is great.
I do.
How has this whole journey been different than you thought it would be?
I didn't think I would feel as much. I didn't think I wasn't expecting that. I don't know what I was expecting. I think I thought, you know, I was just going to quit drinking and everything would just fall into place and be better. I actually, it's kind of funny, but I actually enjoy crying now. That's something that I would avoid at all costs before. And it was kind of like if I started welling up with tears, I would just want to go chug a beer and just wash that away, wash that feeling away. And now, I don't know, I cry all the time. I cry right now. I do. I cry and it feels good. And it's not foreign anymore. And it's a release. And I wasn't expecting that. I just kind of thought that if I removed the alcohol, that, I don't know, maybe my life would look like Beaver Cleaver's. And I wasn't expecting to connect with people the way that I do now. I wasn't expecting people to want to hear my story, to ask me how I did it, or, you know, how could they do it, and what tips could I give them, or just, I certainly never expected for my journey, my experiences, the ones that have been hushed and like swept under the rug, for those to be so valuable, not only in my recovery community, but as a career. Never in my wildest dreams would I have ever thought that there would have been any value to that. And that's been amazing. It's been amazing because when you're a kid dealing with situations that are just so horrific, you know, math homework is the least of your worries. You don't give a crap that you didn't get that English paper done because you were dealing with other things at home that were terrifying. And so, you know, in education, when you're dealing with those things is not top priority. Survival is. And then you get older, and then that picture of the perfect life entails a degree and a professional job, and you just don't fit in anywhere. So I was pleasantly surprised to I don't know, finally be given some self-worth. People found me important, worthy, and valuable, with just the experiences that I've had.
What's one of the happiest memories that you hold on to?
I was at a meeting. I was at a meeting, and I had stayed after, and I was talking to another person, and this gentleman walked up, and he was very, very nervous and very polite, but very, very nervous. And he said, tonight's our first CMA night, and that's Crystal Meth Anonymous. And he's like, I'm so nervous, and I don't know how it's going to go, and I really hope people show up. And he's like, I got to go open up the club. And he's like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. And so he went in the club. And so I had said to my friend, I'm like, he's like my grandfather. He's starting something new. This is the first Crystal Meth Anonymous meeting in Sheboygan. And that's amazing. And they had to put in a lot of work to get that going. And to see somebody, start that, and to be there that night, I looked at my friend and I said, I have my grandfather's box of his like old meeting notes from when AA had first started here. And I have a picture of my grandparents with Bill and Lois. And I said, would it be weird if I like went and showed him my stuff? He was like, no, go get it. So I got my box, and I walked up to him, and I just said, listen, I know this is totally weird, but I just need to tell you this. And so I showed him the pictures of my grandparents with Bill and Lois, and the old notes that they had taken before the clubs here had even existed. We're talking like 1948-ish. And they were just like, wow. And so the other two people that started CMA as well, it was a group of 3 of them that did this. They were there too. And so they were going through that box. And then suddenly it was kind of like they weren't nervous anymore. They were excited, and they knew that they were starting something. And just in that moment, like, it's kind of like one of those moments where everybody had goosebumps, and we were so excited about it. And I think they had like 17 people show up for their first CMA meeting. And they all kind of put their hands on my grandfather's box and got the good mojo off of it. And it was a fantastic meeting. And I am still, those 3 people, even though I've never done crystal meth, my drug of choice was alcohol and painkillers. They welcomed me with open arms, and they were significant in my first year of recovery. I used to go to their meetings all the time because that was just such a moment of that we bonded. And I don't know, it was a very hopeful, and I was just so proud. I was just so proud of them for starting it and wanting to reach out to the community and wanting to better the community. And it was just a very happy and hopeful moment that I got to share what my grandfather had started and what they were starting. So
I have goosebumps now. But what an incredible gift. I'm so glad that you ran into them that night.
right.
Yeah. Along this journey, I know there's a lot of things to be grateful for, but can you think of one thing specifically that you've been really grateful for?
Of course, there's it's so hard because when you're an addict, you're selfish. And when you're in recovery, you're selfish. So there are so many things that I'm grateful for, but I think the most, which I never had ever in my life, I'm so grateful for having a sense of purpose now, for not being lost, for knowing what I'm supposed to do and why I went through the things that I did go through. I'm extremely grateful for letting go of my anger to my higher up. And reconnecting with that higher up and taking the time to build that relationship so that I can let go of things, so that I can feel secure in how life is going, and whatever it deals me, I can adjust and navigate through that, because I have built this relationship with my higher up, and in doing so, I have gained my sense of purpose. And it's taken a really long time to find that, but I am incredibly grateful that I did.
And you made it. And it's still a journey. But to have gotten this far and to be as invested in your community as you are is really incredible to see. What do you hope for in the future?
Oh, I hope that addiction and the use of Narcan is as popular and as vastly advertised as much as alcohol. Alcohol is everywhere. It is everywhere. It's everywhere. I used to love going to yoga. And then my yoga place started drinking while doing yoga. No joke. Sipping wine in between yoga poses. And now, if you look, it's a fad to do yoga and drinking. There's yoga in beer gardens. There's yoga classes where you drink before, during, after. There are gyms where you work out and then have beers after. It's everywhere. I actually went shopping for a pair of tennis shoes online not long ago, and there are tennis shoes that are beer themed. Like, you can buy a pair of Guinness tennis shoes. I can't even shop for shoes without alcohol being involved. And I just wish that people understood addiction. And I wish that it was openly as accepted that there's a disease, and for those, who are addicted to opiates, that, Narcan should be around, and it's not a bad thing. It is a life-saving, it's a stupid nasal spray. It's simple. And, the stigma is is that it's, if we have Narcan around, then we're just saying it's okay to do this. And that's not what it's about. So I just want it to be understood, and I want education to be everywhere, and for it to be just want addiction and surviving addiction to be as popular as what alcohol is right now.
That would be a healthier world for all of us.
Yes.
I know that your grandpa has been hugely important to you throughout your whole life, but now that your paths have kind of crossed in this unexpected way, his legacy means a lot to you. Yeah. And I wonder how you want to be remembered, or what you want your legacy to be.
I think in the same way as he is to me. He was a leader. He was a life changer. And he was an educator. And he was a people person. And I remember I was 18 and I was staying with him. And he woke me up. Now remember, I'm 18 years old. And he wakes me up at like 6 o'clock in the morning and says, "Julie, you got to take me to the store. I need bananas." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Grandpa, it's 6 a.m. Are you kidding me?" And he's like, "We got to go. I got to get my bananas." And I'm like, so here I am, crawling out of bed, 6:30 in the morning. I'm like flopping through Walmart. And he's like, "Well, hang on a second." And he sits down at a bench. And I'm like, "Grandpa, aren't we here for bananas?" And he starts talking up a storm. He's just talking away. And I bet we sat there for over an hour. "How are you doing today? Do you need anything? Can I help you with anything? How are you doing?" And I'm like, "Okay, Grandpa." So I said, "Are you ready? Are you ready to go get your bananas?" He's like, "Yeah." So we're on our way. And this gentleman walks up and he says, "Oh my goodness." He's like, shakes my grandfather's hand and gives him a hug. And he said, I don't know what I would have done without you in my life. I would be dead. And thank you so much for everything that you did for me." And he turned to me and he said, my grandfather introduced me as his granddaughter. And he said, "You should be incredibly proud of your grandfather and the man that he is, because he saves lives." And I want someone to think of me that way. I don't want to be the person that made somebody feel horrible because they suffer from addiction, or, I just want to be known as the person that made a difference.
I think you're well on your way. Just to close up our discussion, you've gathered so much wisdom from your own experiences and all these experiences of the people walking with you and who now you are walking alongside in the work you're doing. What kind of wisdom would you want to share with those who haven't found their way out of addiction yet, or who are really struggling along their journey?
I have when I wanted to change, when I was ready to make a lifestyle change, and that's hard. It's really hard to do. Just try it once, like something that you do every day. Just try not to do it. It's like, uh, it's way more difficult. And then you start playing mind games with yourself. But I was so frustrated one night, and I just wanted a beer. And it, that thought process like consumes us. And I got so mad at myself. And I remember saying, gosh, why can't you just love yourself enough to not want to drink? Like, why can't you just love yourself? And I remember I looked at the clock and I was like, Julie, God, you can't even love yourself for 15 minutes. Like, just try to love yourself for 15 minutes. And I mean, I was sweating, I was pacing, and I, was just like, I wanted to drink. And it was an actual like physical battle. Like I was, I hit the door and I'd walk, and so when I looked at the clock, I was like, okay, 15 minutes. If I can't love myself for 15 minutes, we got a really big problem here. And so I set the timer on my phone, and I'm like, for 15 minutes, I'm not going to obsess about this. For 15 minutes, I'm going to challenge myself to distract this obsession from this obsession and this wanting this beer. I'm just going to, 15 minutes is it. I set that timer, and I, I did the dishes, I folded laundry, and I vacuumed in 15 minutes. It was amazing. You should try it sometime. It's crazy. And afterwards, I had passed that craving. I passed it. Like, I was exhausted from everything that I had just done in 15 minutes. And then I was okay. Like, I didn't need it anymore. I wasn't obsessively thinking about it anymore. And so from that point on, anytime I would start, that wrong voice would creep up and start giving me these great ideas of, oh, you haven't seen those friends in so long, you should go have a beer. Or you worked really hard today, you should go have a beer. As soon as that crept in, I set my timer to 15 minutes. And I started like, okay, I'm just going to go walk outside for 15 minutes. I love photography. I'm going to go on a nature walk, and I'm going to take pictures for 15 minutes. I'm going to close my eyes and listen to music for 15 minutes. And that has been my go-to, because if you can't love yourself for 15 minutes, you just have to. Like, you just have to give yourself 15 minutes. That's it. And you can do a whole hell of a lot in 15 minutes. And I think it's extremely sad. I don't know an addict that has ever said that they love themselves. So actually loving yourself for 15 minutes is kind of a big challenge, especially when you're not used to loving yourself at all. But now with my peers, that is a promise that I have them make to me right away in the beginning, is that if you ever get to that point, and if you aren't able to get a hold of me or anybody else or whatever, and you're stuck in that moment with yourself, you have to love yourself for 15 minutes. And they actually catch on to it. And it's kind of funny now, because I'll be sitting at my desk and one of them will pop in and he's like, doing my 15 minutes. It's so awesome. It's just so awesome, because it sounds so stupid and it's just like 15 minutes, but it's amazing. It's amazing, because you can completely change your mindset if you just give yourself that time. The other thing is, I've talked about a lot of people always talk about triggers, like if I'm driving and a stupid like spotted cow semi drives by, well, guess what Julie wants to do? She wants to drink now. And my my mouth is like salivating and I'm triggered and now I want to go to a bar and order a spotted cow. So I was thinking one night where I was down by the lake and I'm like, why are we always triggered by the negative stuff? Like, why does it have to be that way? Why can't we be triggered in a positive way? Like, why can't we see something that makes us think differently in a good sense, you know? And so at that time I had kind of looked at my hand and then I remembered, you know, gratitude is so incredibly important, to just be grateful for what you have. And so I made myself think of 5 things, one for each finger, what I was grateful for. And it doesn't have to be these big, huge things. It could be, you know, I'm grateful for the sound of the waves. I'm grateful for the breeze. I was just kind of thinking of different things. And then I just kind of made a fist and thought, you know, that's what I have in my grasp right now. That's what I need to focus on. And so now it's kind of funny because, you know, I'll see someone like be kind of grumpy and just, you know, kind of stuck in the stinking thinking. And all of a sudden they'll kind of like look at their hand and I know what they're doing. They're thinking of 5 things to be grateful for. And so that's another thing. I'm like, think of the hand. What you got? But it works every single time. Even the ones that say, oh, don't show me your hand. I don't want to do that. Well, do it anyway. And then, you know, 5 minutes later, they've got a smile on their face because they're focusing on what they do have instead of, you know, what they don't, what they've lost. Those are my 2 tricks. That's what I use.
They're both wonderful and can bring you so well and easily back into the present.
Right.
That we're here now, we're going to focus on what we have now and then move forward together with all these great people in your life.
Right.
Well, thank you so much, Julie. Is there anything else that you want to say before we close?
Just thank you. Thank you for being part of my day. Thank you for allowing me to share openly. I didn't think that there was going to be tears, but I'm all right with that.
We love crying now.
We do. It's such a good thing. It really is. It is.